I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
Here we go. It's another edition of the Daily Punch Drop. It is your daily sports podcast here on a Tuesday, November 25th. Coming up in today's show, that means John Canzano from johncanzano.com, the bald-faced truth. We'll talk all things college football, the craziness of one of the best sports in the world. Danny Kelly of The Ringer. Danny's Dime stops on by as well during the show. Get you caught up on all the latest storylines in the NFL, thoughts on the Seahawks and everything that's going on in the National Football League. We'll give you a little Old Crimson sneak peek, which will come out later today as we discuss the Cougs wrapping up the final game of the season as they take on the Beavers coming up on Saturday. And, of course, we also have on this day, November 25th, and we wrap up every show with, Hey, What the Puck? We'll get to headlines in just a quick second. But, of course, we come via the Limback Lumber Studios. Big thanks to Limback Lumber. We could not do this show every single day without the support there of Limback Lumber. Big thanks to them. Contractors and do-it-yourselfers, they're going to take care of you. Everything. They offer free deliveries, whole house packages to homeowner DIY projects. Give them a call, 206-782-3487. Visit them at limbacklumber.com. Visit me on social media, Puck Sports, everywhere except for TikTok, which is Puck_sports. And, of course, you can find everything up at pucksports.com, including update on Puck Survivor. Many of you survived yesterday with the 49ers winning, so 32 of you still are left. Also up at pucksports.com, you can sign up to become a Puck's Posse member. All right, headlines real quick before we get to the bald-faced truth with John Canzano, brought to you by Flat Stick Pub, where we talk college football. Big game, of course, coming up on Saturday in the Northwest, Oregon and Washington. Seahawks injuries, boy, they just keep piling up in the secondary. Ty Okada, who's been filling in for Julian Love, he left the last week's game against Tennessee. Mike McDonald saying on yesterday there on Monday that he could land on the IR. Now, I guess kind of good news is that Julian Love is eligible to come off of the IR, but McDonald non-committal about his return. Other good news, Tyrese Knight, Ernest Jones both look like they're going to make it back for the game against the Minnesota Vikings coming up there on Sunday. College Hoops Maui Invitational, that's right. Just because everyone's playing in Vegas at a better tournament, that doesn't mean we can't pay attention to the Maui Invitational and the Cougs. They're going to take on ASU tonight. It is an old Pac-10 rematch there in Maui. 5 o'clock on ESPN Sunday. Sun Devils favored by 7.5. The winner is going to face the winner of Seton Hall and USC. Sheduer Sanders has been named the starting quarterback against the 49ers this week by head coach Kevin Stefanski, despite Dylan Gabriel being cleared from the concussion protocol. Red Sox have made a trade in Major League Baseball. Sonny Gray is headed to the Red Sox from the Cardinals. St. Louis receives a couple of pitching prospects. And speaking of baseball, another edition of Inside Pitch with Ryan Divish coming out tomorrow there for Puck's Posse members. Lastly, quarterbacks Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers, along with Larry Fitzgerald, Jason Witten, Frank Gore, have all made it to the semifinal stage in the first year of eligibility in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Field's going to be reduced to 15 finals. They'll vote there before the Super Bowl. All right, time for college football, the bald-faced truth with John Canzano, johncanzano.com. His weekly appearance brought to you by the fine folks there at Flat Stick Pub. If it's fun you desire, it's fun you're going to get at Flat Stick Pub. It doesn't matter what the occasion is, whether it's date night, guys night, ladies night, or large group event, Flat Stick Pub's got you covered. They have 6 great locations across the Pacific Northwest, from Pioneer Square to Kirkland, South Lake Union, Spokane, Bellingham, and Redmond. All locations offer the best pub experience in Washington. 2 rules at Flat Stick Pub: drink local and have fun. Pretty simple. So if you like to have fun, love local beer, and great tasting food, make Flat Stick Pub your next spot. Visit them at flatstickpub.com. And here he is, John Canzano, Bald-Faced Truth Radio there in Portland, Oregon, johncanzano.com. We got Washington and Oregon to cover. We got the CFP rankings coming out tonight. What the hell is going on with Lane Kiffin? We've got Justin Wilcox being fired. The best result of that is Nick Rolovich is now the interim head coach at Cal. And we've got some strong words from a couple of college football people on a podcast about all the teams from the Pac-12 in the Big Ten. But here he is, John Canzano, with us every single week talking college football. Of course, you can read all of his work, johncanzano.com. Great stuff up there as always. And he's brought to you by Flat Stick Pub. How are you on this Tuesday?
I am thankful and looking forward to Thanksgiving week. And, I don't know about you, but a holiday week, Monday, Tuesday, I always feel kind of crammed on this week. Yeah. And in our world, it doesn't stop, does it?
It's a mail it in week is what this is. Now, the last thing, it's always mail it, but for me it is. Put this on your radar before you go. I'm going to ask you, I need the starting lineup for Thursday.
Okay.
Who's coming in? Who starts? Who's left on the bench? We'll get to that coming up there at the very end. Let's start first with Oregon and Washington, at least in the Northwest. It's the biggest game there of the week. Have we given this a name yet? Is there some type of rivalry name? Has anyone down there come up with something?
No, they should too, but Oregon's going to act like this game is just part of their journey. Washington's not going to want to give Oregon the credence and the weight that this game holds in their world. Even your buddy Softy, I talked to him this week. He's a little subdued. He's a little, what will be. It doesn't really sound to me like the old Softy who used to bang his shoe on the table and insist that the Huskies were going to win the game. I think he knows it might be a while before Washington wins this game again. I think, Oregon might own this series for 7 of the next 8 years or 8 out of 10. I think it feels like we're headed into that kind of turn, but no name for it. It is a big game. It's huge. I kind of worry about Oregon's psychology. I'm big on sociology and psychology with these teams. And I feel like Oregon a few times in the last couple of years it gets up for a big game. It gets up for Penn State or it gets up for Ohio State last year during the regular season. And then, there's just an emotional letdown afterwards. And I kind of think they were up for the USC game, that it was a big game. Like, Dan Lanning got it going. And, he basically said Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart aren't walking through that tunnel. They're living on their past. And I think Oregon looked like a Big Ten team last week, but Damon Williams Jr. is dangerous. I think this will be a little dicey for Oregon, but how can anybody with half a brain not pick the Ducks to win this game?
I agree. I think they're anywhere from a 6.5 to 7.5 point favorite going into the game. But I sat there and watched them last week against USC. I think the fact that Washington gets them at home, they play better at home. They're coming off a big win against UCLA. And again, I know it's UCLA and all that. they're not a good football team. But again, that's been a house of horrors for Washington down there. And again, they play very different at home. It pains me to say this. I give them a fighter's chance against Oregon. I don't think Oregon, I think it's going to be a closer game. I think and I guess, 6.5, I guess is close, but it comes down to the final few minutes of the fourth quarter.
Look, Damon Williams Jr. has not thrown an interception at Husky Stadium this season, but let's go back to last year, Puck. They sacked him 10 times in the game. It was a record, an Oregon record. They sacked Damon Williams Jr. 10 times in that game. If Oregon, again, wins the line of scrimmage as they did last week against USC, Oregon will win this football game. I mean, I think Washington needs Oregon to make some mistakes. Still, I think there's a risk here that Oregon doesn't show up with the kind of alacrity that it had against USC or Penn State. And that might say something about the state of the rivalry and where it is right now. But if Oregon shows up kind of lackadaisical in the wake of all that tryptophan from the turkey, then, I think Washington could catch them a little bit and make this a real game. But I still have to pick Oregon. I just think they're better, playing for more, better players, better offensive line. They look like a Big Ten team. These other teams that have come into the conference, USC, Washington, and UCLA, they don't look like the Big Ten teams yet, and Oregon does.
Yeah, they do, because defensively they're playing really well, and then offensively it looks like they've taken a step back from a few years, like 10 years ago, which just reminds me of the Big Ten.
Yes,
they don't remind me of what Oregon used to be. It's very different.
Yeah, it's interesting because you look at Washington played Michigan in that national championship game a couple of years ago, and the Wolverines basically put the Huskies on roller skates and rolled them around that stadium, and it wasn't surprising to Big Ten people because they remembered in 2015, Ohio State did the same thing to Oregon. And in 2011, Auburn did that to Oregon. it's where the Pac-12 teams traditionally struggled. And you look at the rushing numbers in those big games against the Big Ten teams, the Pac-12 teams just got like boat raced. And so Oregon is now pivoted into doing that. And they've got a big offensive line. They did it to USC last week. I was kicking myself because I wrote the column in the post game, and I'm like, gosh, that looked like a Big Ten team against a Pac-12 team. And, I should have had a paragraph or two about that in my piece, right? And so, Lincoln Riley, it got so bad that Lincoln Riley late in that game pulled to within 8 points, about to kick the extra point to make it 7. He goes for 2, inexplicably. Down 1 score. Why not just kick the extra point? And then you're 1 touchdown away from tying this thing up. But it was kind of an admission by Lincoln Riley that they couldn't stop Oregon. So he's trying to steal a point here, do whatever he could there. He didn't want to end up in an overtime situation against the Ducks. So Oregon does look more physical. Washington has struggled with those physical teams. I think it's going to be a real test of the offensive and defensive line at UW.
Let's say they pull off the upset on Saturday. Washington wins the game. I want to get to in a second. What does that do to Oregon? Does that completely knock them out of the college football playoff? Do they stumble all the way down? What does it mean for Jedd Fisch? He's really tempered, and everyone's reading into this. Like in his last few weeks, I don't know if you've noticed this or anyone's told you this. He's been wearing a lot of Washington, like old school paraphernalia, and people are like, he never did that before. Now he's doing it all the time, like he's fully committed. Let's say they win. Okay, now that gets them, what's their record? 8-3? 8-4? Does that get them to 9 wins?
Yeah, 9-3.
Okay. Now his name starts getting brought up again, probably.
Is he 9-3?
Now I gotta look at it, right? Yeah. If they win this week, that's 9 wins, and 9 wins, nothing to sneeze at, especially if he can win the bowl game. Now we're turning.
That's a great season for Jedd.
Great season, great season. So does his name get brought up again? Does he start getting happy feet one more time?
Yes, he does. Yes, that's the name of the game, and that's the name of this era. Like unless there's Dan Lanning's a different animal because of the circumstances. He his alma mater is William Jewell College. He's got this private deal, this deal with Phil Knight where he has a compensation deal and some retention bonuses that may be tied to Nike stock that keep Dan Lanning at Oregon. But I think even Dan Lanning will leave eventually. I mean, he goes to the Kansas City Chiefs 5 years from now. I mean, that's kind of where I see that happening. But, this is just the name of the game. If your coach wins and he's a flight risk. And so I think everybody knows, if you look at Jedd Fisch's resume, everybody knows he's leaving at some point. It's a matter of when. And if you're a Husky fan, if I told you when Kalen DeBoer left that 2 years later you'd be 9-3, you beat Oregon, and then your coach was leaving for Florida or something, I think you'd be okay. You'd go, okay, there's life after Kalen DeBoer. There will be life after Jedd Fisch as well. I think that's just the way it goes.
Can we revisit what you just said? What is this deal that Dan Lanning has with Phil Knight? Is that is that allowed? He has some private deal on the side.
Look, every coach has a contract, right, and includes a big buyout. Oregon's got a big buyout. Now it has been reported that Dan Lanning and Oregon have come up with some kind of compensation deal that gives Dan Lanning some retention bonuses. It may be tied to Nike stock options with Phil Knight if he's there 5 years, 10 years from now. And I think that is how Oregon is playing defense with Dan Lanning that goes beyond his buyout. I think, they've come up with a way to say, hey, look, if you're still here, your biggest benefactor is going to kick down and make this very lucrative for you. Lanning's never spoken about it. It's not in his contract. It's kind of the unspoken thing that is circulating here among the fan base and among the media that Lanning's got this deal. I'll ask him about it. I'm supposed to talk to him this week. I'll ask him about it and try to get more about it. But I don't think it's a dumb thing by Oregon. I also know that, when Lanning in his first season, the end of his first season, he called me on a Saturday. His contract was being extended. And he told me, he said, he and his wife, Sophia, had dragged those kids around and had like 7 different cities in 11 years. And he said that they made a promise to each other that they were going to let the kids graduate from the same high school. Now, his youngest, I think now is, maybe a 6th grader or so. So I think, he's not staying forever. But I think if you're an Oregon fan, I think you can reasonably expect him to be there maybe 5 more years. And, if the Kansas City Chiefs are looking for a coach, that's the job, I think, that calls his name. He's talked about being at Arrowhead Stadium as a kid, went to 1 game with his dad. He remembers the hot cocoa in his hands. He remembers what was on the radio in the pickup truck. It was too nostalgic for me to ignore.
All right, so you don't think this will be a close game Saturday? You think Oregon wins pulling away?
I think I think it will be dicey and interesting, like second, third quarter, but I think Oregon's too good. And I think they're too physical. And I think they end up in the end, maybe they get a late touchdown. All Oregon needs to do though is win the game. So the point spread scares me a little bit from that standpoint. There could be a backdoor cover. There could be Oregon and taking its foot off the gas, not punching in that extra score at the end, like they may have wanted to do if they were worried about getting in the playoff. But Oregon at 11-1, they're in the playoff, and they're probably a 5 seed or 6 seed. They're hosting a home playoff game. Oregon loses this game. It matters how they lose, because I think if they lose in overtime on the road and Damon Williams Jr. has an amazing game and the committee's just like, man, they just ran into a guy having a special day, and you line them up against some 2 lost teams that are out there, Oregon may get the nod. But if Washington beats Oregon, just beats them, I think the committee is going to put Oregon firmly on the bubble. I don't think they get in if they lose that game and they look like they don't belong.
This wasn't a report. It was just it came off as a report in some weird way. Yeah. But Matt Berry and Paul Feinbaum, and people may not know who Matt Berry is. He's an ESPN anchor. I believe Matt was an alum of ASU, so he has Pac-12 ties. And they were just doing a podcast this week, and they were just talking about the USC game in Oregon. And I think they both agreed, and I think it was Feinbaum that just said, hey, no one in the Big Ten accepts USC. In fact, no one in the Big Ten accepts any of them that came over from the Pac-12. And I think they used the line, they deal with Oregon because Oregon's kind of a pest. So they have to deal with them because of the money and all that. And then I think one of the hosts, I think it was Barry, said, you think anyone in the Big Ten gives a damn about UCLA and Washington? So you talk to a lot of people in the Big Ten. How are these schools that came over perceived in that conference?
I mean, everyone looks at Oregon's brand and sees additive value. And Oregon has, played at the highest levels and has a win over Ohio State, has a win over Michigan, has a win over Penn State. Oregon has performed. I think Oregon is 3-1 against those teams in the last 2 seasons. And so I think people give Oregon that respect because they've done it on the field. The perception in the old world Pac-12 was that Oregon had bought its way to the top, right? Paris Hilton. That's not the perception in the Big Ten. They're seeing a program that, of course, has money, but the Big Ten top tier programs have always had money. And so in some weird way, that stigma against Oregon that, we've all gone Uncle Phil and, begrudged them for it. In some weird way in the Big Ten, I think it's more acceptable and embraced. It's not seen as a shortcut. It's what Ohio State is doing. It's what Michigan is doing. It's what Oregon is doing. And so Oregon is accepted. USC is not viewed as a top tier upper echelon program. They're looked down upon. And I don't think USC is ever going to be USC in the Big Ten. UCLA is not taken seriously. Washington is, but it was interesting, Puck, in the summer before the first year of the Big Ten, the summer before last year, I went to a wedding that was, the couple was from Wisconsin and they were getting married. And a lot of the people at the wedding were Iowa fans, Illinois fans, Wisconsin fans. And it was a really interesting sort of crowdsourcing conversation. They didn't like these teams coming in. They didn't like Oregon or Washington or USC coming in because they were like, hey, what's making it now if you're Iowa? Like, finishing 5th? Like, that's a great year for you. Like, there was a real concern that a really nice season by their standards wasn't going to get them much in the way of national recognition. I think Washington's in that second tier. I don't think the rest of the Big Ten kind of looks over at Washington and sees the Huskies the way that the old Pac-12 used to see them. Arizona State fans did not like Washington being in the conference. They felt like they couldn't beat them. They couldn't get over them. They had to play them and deal with them, and they had advantages. And Washington just doesn't have that standing in the Big Ten. And I think, look, you had an elite coach in Chris Peterson. You had a special coach in Kalen DeBoer. You had Jen Cohen, the athletic director now at USC, who made those hires. Pat Chun's got to come in here after Jedd Fisch and make another special hire, or I think Washington is going to get stuck in that second or third tier for the foreseeable future. There's no advantage anymore. You had an advantage in the Pac-12 over, most of the conference when you were Washington. You don't have that in the Big Ten. You are on par with Illinois and Iowa and Minnesota, and you're chasing the big dogs.
And maybe it will change. And here I am defending them as a program. And I know you probably follow these guys, but a good follow on Twitter is West Coast CFB.
Yeah,
the Canada's all. They put this out the other day. I mean, the highest winning percentage for Power 4 programs over the last 10 seasons. Ohio State's number 1, followed by Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Notre Dame, Michigan 6. Their winning percentage is 76.8%. Then it's Oklahoma at 76, Oregon at 72, Penn State at 71.9, and Washington at 70.5. I'm bringing that up because I think there is this perception. It's weird that you hear Iowa fans and Illinois fans and Wisconsin like there's some downtrodden school or something.
I know.
I just think that the perception of them I doesn't fit reality in the last decade. And now we're talking about, I mean, in the last decade, they've been through 3 coaches.
Yeah.
Right? Peterson, DeBoer, and Fisch.
Jimmy Lake. Don't forget Jimmy Lake.
Oh, Jimmy Lake. I miss Jimmy Lake. I don't know. I think the brand is healthy and strong, but God, and it makes me sick saying that. But
look, the Washington brand in the Pac-12 was, look, every year as I went to look at the season, I would look at Washington, Oregon, USC, Utah, and I'd be like, okay, who in this group is going to win it? Like, they're all contending. And Washington, you couldn't ignore Washington. You couldn't. Yeah. But Ohio State fans and Michigan fans are not thinking about Washington. They're thinking about Oregon, and they're thinking about each other. And Washington, look, they've got some advantages with fundraising and NIL. They've got a great stadium with a great setting.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've had elite teams and great history, rich history and tradition.
Mm-hmm.
I do worry about, what happens to Washington in the next 5 years. And as somebody who's in the Pacific Northwest, like, don't let this secret out. Like, I want the teams in the Pacific Northwest to matter. And so I'm looking at Washington going, man, they have got to make some really good decisions because they don't have advantages over Ohio State, Michigan, and Oregon. They're playing for 4th place unless they do some things really smart and shrewd.
Let's get to the coaching kind of carousel. And I'm going to get to I want to get to Oregon State in a quick second because obviously we're Pacific Northwest. You have a whole write-up on it and coaches coming in. Let me just first start with Lane Kiffin and what's going on there. We've got a lot of people that get angry about kids and their commitment and NIL and the transfer portal, right? And God, why can't anyone just stay there for 3-4 years anymore? You gave your word and then you leave. I think what is happening right now, and I get everyone wants to benefit and have the best opportunity for their family. I've been thinking about this a lot the other day. I'm watching the Cougars play last night, and I just tweeted out after we're down by 20 going, I miss Kyle Smith. I just missed the way we used to play basketball. We gave a crap about defense, and we played fundamentally sound. Now, they won the game last night. It was great. But Kyle Smith made a decision for himself that he saw the writing on the wall in the conference. Hey, if I don't get out now, I may never get out. And on top of that, if you don't know his family situation with his kids and autism, and Stanford has this leading autism research there and help. And he went to Stanford, and it's Palo Alto, and it's beautiful and all that. I get it. You want to do what's best for your family. And I understand what Lane Kiffin wants to do.
Right.
But this is one of the worst things I've ever seen. When you go into some kid's room and talk about commitment and you got to be all about the team and we need you, we need to give you 100%. This guy has left his school out to dry and those players out to dry. And he's taken another job, by the way, and yet he won't answer any questions about it, refuses to do it, and then will announce after the Egg Bowl when they play, I think it's Friday, right? Friday or Saturday, that he's gone to go to Florida or LSU. Here's the thing, John. If I'm Ole Miss, I just remove him now. Like, listen, you don't want to be here. You're not coaching in the rivalry game. Yeah.
The problem you got, I think you'd have to fire him. So you'd have an issue with paying him out on his contract. You probably don't want to do that if you're Ole Miss because it's a sad reality. I don't think every coach would do this. I think that he's gone. I don't think if he wasn't gone, he would be giving that fan base the vote of confidence that it deserves. I think that it's probably LSU, but maybe Florida. But it's sad to me because the fans at Ole Miss should be enjoying this. This is a magical season. Washington fans enjoyed it a couple of years ago. Oregon fans are admit it now. Your watch Indiana fans are, Kurt Signetti didn't hold Indiana hostage till the end of the year. No, signed his extension mid-season, committed to the school that believed in him when he was at James Madison. And Dan Lanning saying the grass isn't greener. So what I'm saying is, like, not everybody does it this way. Like, Lane Kiffin is the worst of the worst when it comes to this stuff. I think he should be ashamed of himself for what he is doing to that fan base. And the worst thing to me would be even now if he stays, because are you telling me he strung out Ole Miss to this point, made the fans kind of doubt him, made the players have to be distracted, goes into an Egg Bowl, knowing that he has a little secret that he's going to stay, and he loves the idea that everybody's been clamoring over him. I mean, it's clear that he evidently loves the attention that he is getting from being pursued and wanted. And this is Lane Kiffin, who was fired on a tarmac. This is Lane Kiffin, who the Raiders ran out of town after making him the youngest head coach in the NFL. Look, it's a nice story. He's redeemed himself, but he is slapping Ole Miss in the face. This is a school that didn't need to believe in him. And they gave him an opportunity, and he's taken that platform and he's clobbering them with it. So it's not everyone does this. And I think, look, you can criticize Jedd Fisch for putting on old Washington gear every morning, but at least he's not doing this. Like, I think it's embarrassing for Lane Kiffin. And
but embarrassing for all the sport too, John, because it's the guy that's pulling the puppet strings on all this one is a guy by the name of Jimmy Sexton, who is the agent for all of these coaches. And it's so egregious and just so he's got one of his clients, Nick Saban, going on College Game Day, ranting and railing about the system that's college football. There's no blame for Lane Kiffin. It's not his fault. It's this college football system. No, it's the guy that is representing, that's pulling all these strings behind the scenes. Now, which leads me to this, and I like Oliver Stone and conspiracy theories, all right?
Yeah.
There was a college football reporter, podcaster, you probably know him, Josh Pate, right? He's very popular, and I think he was in Oregon last week for the USC game. Now, again, he tweets out the other day, I just found out where Lane Kiffin's going. Wow. Okay, well, I could say that, and no one will ever hold it against me, whether I got it right or wrong. But let's just dance with there's a surprise scenario out there. Surprise. Because everyone assumes it's LSU and it's Florida. Jimmy Sexton represents them all, including Kalen DeBoer. Now, Kalen DeBoer has been linked to Penn State. Now, there's been these message board stories that have come out here recently that the family of DeBoer doesn't really like it there, and it's scary, and they're afraid of the fan base. Well, Lane Kiffin used to be an assistant coach at Alabama. Is he pulling? Could there be a scenario? Wouldn't this be great? Where he's pulling all these strings behind the scenes of Jimmy Sexton. He gets Lane Kiffin to Alabama. He gets DeBoer to Penn State. Yeah,
and I think
dance with me on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think anything's possible. I mean, look at what happened when Sexton orchestrated Jimbo Fisher in and out of Florida State, Texas A&M. I remember when Jonathan Smith last year was trying to get out of Oregon State. His agent is used to work with Jimmy Sexton and now has launched his own agency. And there was a real feeling that maybe some of the opportunities that were going to open up would not be available to Jonathan Smith. You see how powerful the agents have become with NBA teams, and the general managers in the NBA are terrified of the agents. They're afraid to cross them. And so the agents are moving players around in free agency and going, well, if you don't take this guy, you're not going to have a shot at this free agent. Treat my client right, or you don't get another client. I'll go further with the dirty little secrets. Jimmy Sexton's not just representing coaches, Puck. Jimmy Sexton's representing some of the talking heads that you see on the media side on ESPN and Fox. And so when you see sources have told me, you are often seeing Jimmy Sexton at work behind the scenes, sort of whispering in the ear of his other clients. You can pretty easily figure out, and it's not just in college football, you can pretty easily figure out which agencies are representing both coaches and media personalities who are on ESPN and Fox, covering college football, the NFL, the NBA. The sources tell me the game that Woj invented, right, and perfected to his credit, has been bastardized to the point where the agents are feeding the information to their clients on air to make them look great, and it helps the coaches in the end. It is a nasty little cycle, but if you know this as a consumer and you watch it, you can pretty easily figure out where the leaks are and who's representing who.
Yeah. All right, let's get to Oregon State. I think it's accurate, right? The Montana State coach was flown in, spotted at the Portland airport.
Yeah. I got more on that. Not only that, Jamarcus Shepard, the Alabama assistant, was in on Sunday as well. So you have Brent Vegan, who has come in. You have Jamarcus Shepard, who has come in. You have Tim Polsak, the North Dakota State coach, expected to get a final round interview. I think that's where it stood as of yesterday. And then I was told yesterday morning that some intermediaries on behalf of Justin Wilcox, freshly fired in Berkeley, some intermediaries were working behind the scenes with Oregon State, making contact, trying to get Wilcox in for an interview. And I think Oregon State has some interest in that. They want to talk to him.
Okay, so Jim Moore and I have this long-held belief.
Yeah.
And I want you to tell, because you know more than we do. We're idiots, Jim and I. And we're morons. We don't get the love affair with Justin Wilcox. We just don't understand. He has been a bad head coach from a record standpoint. Had 2 winning seasons. His conference record is god-awful. But yet when you say that, the first reaction is, well, but he was at Cal.
Yeah. And
Cal's hard to win there. And I'm thinking, as a Washington State alum, don't tell me where it's hard to win at.
Right.
Don't. He's in Berkeley. I mean, my God, we're in Pullman. Or don't tell Oregon State fans it's hard to win there. Why is Justin Wilcox sought after by Oregon State?
Well, I think, one, it is a hard place to win. I think you look back historically at the Cal coaches who have had any success at all. Even Marv Levy, he struggled to win there, and he went on to the NFL. He put him in the Hall of Fame, right? Like, he was a really good coach. He couldn't win at Cal. And I think the academic standards at Cal, especially in this era with NIL and portal, really tough to get, to a position where you can win. The same exists, though, at Stanford. And I think that's what made, the loss last weekend unpalatable for Ron Rivera, is he was like, hey, you go on the road and you beat a ranked Louisville team. That's great. But you can't lose to Stanford, the other team that has the struggles and across the bay. And so I think he just opened the door for it. But Wilcox, look, he interviewed when Jonathan Smith got the job at Oregon State. He interviewed in that cycle. So he was a finalist. And I think with Scott Barnes talked with Justin Wilcox at the time, the comment I got after their interview from an insider at Oregon State was that, oh my gosh, Barnes loved how Wilcox interviewed. He is charismatic. He is authentic. He is very different. He's the anti-Lane Kiffin, right? He's a very substance culture. True. You talk with him, he's very grounded. And so he's a likable guy who you go, oh, I really trust this guy. He's in command. He, his players love him. You'd hire him. And so I think Scott Barnes was leaning towards hiring him before he interviewed Jonathan Smith. And then Smith knocked it out of the park. And he said, oh my gosh, love to have them both, but I can't do it. Oregon offered Justin Wilcox the job before it gave it to Dan Lanning. It was, however, offered to Wilcox in a way that Wilcox wouldn't take it. They told him, he was going to have to take Tosh Lapoy as his defensive coordinator. They were going to dictate his offensive coordinator. Couldn't bring any assistants with him. It was all going to be like, hey, you're the figurehead, but we're going to give your staff and put it together. I asked Wilcox about it. And to his credit, this is what kind of person he is. Like, he could have just trashed Oregon. It was that media day, Pac-12 media day, after he had turned down the Oregon job. He walked by me and I said, hey, did they offer you the job? He said, yes. And he said, I'll tell you the story someday. Well, I went and asked the questions and I figured it out, but he wouldn't, he wasn't willing to kind of trash Oregon in that way, but he's local. He would bring culture. He presents well. He's always given people the idea that if you gave him resources and a conference where you had a fighting chance, that he would be wildly successful. And I think he brings credibility in the Pacific Northwest, at least outside of you and Jim. So I think there's a little bit of a legitimacy to him, despite the losing record, that appeals to a place like Oregon State. And frankly, I'm going to say it, like, they're looking down the road 44 miles away going, hey, Oregon offered him the job a few years ago. It was good enough for Oregon. And I think that there's some people at Oregon State that would feel validated by it. And here's the other thing. I was told the 2 biggest donors at the University of Oregon, Pat Kilkenny and Phil Knight, both reached out and gave Oregon State sort of a recommendation, you should talk to Justin. There may be a little bit of we're not just getting a coach, we might be getting a donor in this. So I think Oregon State is pausing here.
Recently this happened?
Yes. Yesterday morning.
Oh, wait. Balloons.
There you go.
Why are there balloons? Why do balloons pop up?
What was
so
that?
Recently as yesterday,
yes,
two of the biggest donors there, had reached out to Oregon State and said, you should consider hiring him.
You should look at Justin Wilcox. Give him a look. And
would they give money to Oregon State?
Phil Knight, people didn't know this. Phil Knight not only had a suite at Reser Stadium for years, he also, when Pat Casey, the Oregon State baseball coach, talked to Notre Dame about leaving years ago, Phil Knight called Bob DeCarolis and said, I will pick up the tab for the salary to beat Notre Dame's salary. In the end, when you talk about Pat Kilkenny and Phil Knight, they support Oregon. But what they love even more than Oregon is Oregonians. And it's why, like Scott Ruick, the basketball coach at Oregon State, his son Cole goes to Boise State. He won a collegiate championship. They got him an exemption to go play in the British Open. Okay. He was going to go, but there's a bunch of travel expenses to it. Pat Kilkenny, Oregon's second biggest donor, stepped up, not only paid for Cole Ruick's travel expenses to go to this thing, but paid for the whole Ruick family to go. Like he basically, it's just, this is Oregonians supporting Oregonian, going on in the background here. So
hey, I'm all for Wilcox now if I were a Beaver fan.
Yeah. But here's
if you could say you get money from those two, I mean, that'd be very tempting.
It's not going to be the support they give Oregon, but they're going to support Justin Wilcox. And so, I mean, I think that helps. And I'm going to throw something else out there that sounds crazy. Okay.
It's fine.
I was told by an assistant coach at Cal that Jaron Sagapuloteli's revenue share deal and his NIL deals with Cal included outs for him if Justin Wilcox left. He was already at Oregon. He had seen big-time college football. He went to Oregon, took that check, got in the portal, went to Cal to go be with Justin Wilcox, who was the first coach who offered him a scholarship. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying this is a package deal, but the assistant coach at Cal told me it won't take $3 or $4 or $5 million to get JKS to follow Justin Wilcox. You could give him Malik Murphy money, and he probably would follow him. He's not. This is not all about money to that kid. And I think everyone expects that JKS is going to end up like at Texas or Ohio State or Georgia or back at Oregon. I wouldn't be surprised if he follows Justin Wilcox.
Interesting. Sounds like you're leaning towards he could be the guy there.
I think he's given Oregon State some pause. Now, but think about it. Like you've already got your prom date lined up. The limo's out front of the house. I think Brent Vegan, Tim Polishek, Jamarcus Shepard all believe they got a shot at this job. If you're Scott Barnes, think about his position. Okay, now you have Justin Wilcox in the room. Barnes can't afford to get this wrong. He missed on Trent Bray. His basketball coach, Wayne Tinkle, has been a disaster in the last couple of years. He looks like he can't get a hire right. So if you're Scott Barnes, what is the safest play here? Where do you get traction? Is it going Montana State or North Dakota State? Is it going with the Alabama assistant, or is it going with Justin Wilcox? Because that is your answer.
Lastly, great stuff. That's just tremendous information. We'll highlight that when we put out the show later today. Give me the starting lineup for Thursday. What do we got?
What are we talking? Like for food?
Yeah, food.
Oh, all right.
Booze, all of it. Starting lineup.
Listen, my grandfather, my Italian grandfather, always had a highball on big holidays. So there will be a highball mixed in there. I'm not saying it needs to happen at 9 a.m. Okay, but at some point, I will take some Crown Royal and some 7-Up or some Sprite and a little bit of crushed ice in a glass. Okay. And I will hold it up to make sure that the color looks right, so it's a good mix. And I will say, that's a good one, because that's what my Italian grandfather used to say when he would pour himself a drink. So that will be involved. But I'm a purist, right? I believe the pitcher should hit in baseball. I think that it's just going to be turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing. I for years believed that cranberry when had that ring around it because it comes out of the can that way. I thought that's how it was manufactured organically in nature. So I think it'll be just dandy playing it straight, having the high ball. There must be an NFL game on while I'm
three of them. Yeah, there's lots. Good. I like it. Maybe some green beans.
Yeah, some green beans.
Don't gotta get too fancy.
No.
Yeah, people try to get too fancy with it.
Pumpkin pie, pecan pie, maybe if I'm feeling wild.
I'm making a pecan pie today. I just have a little bit because I save it for pie. It's just a big pie day. All right. Good for you. I like that starting lineup. Great stuff, John. Read all of John's work up at johncanzano.com. Follow him, John Canzano BFT on social media. You can listen to him as well. The Bald Face Truth Radio program down there in Portland starts at 3 o'clock. His weekly appearance brought to you by Flat Stick Pub. Great information there on Oregon State and Justin Wilcox. Happy Thanksgiving to you and the Canzano family. Have fun with that highball.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. There he is, John Canzano again. We will have that podcast up later on the show. As we do with all our interviews, we're going to separate that. Great stuff there on Oregon State. And if you are a Beaver alum and fan, if you can get those two guys that spend all that money for the Oregon football team to do something for Oregon State and the NIL, I think it would give you pause on the other candidates and have to think strongly and long and hard about maybe Justin Wilcox as an option there with Oregon State. All right, from John Canzano, we transition from college football to the NFL. All of our NFL coverage brought to you by Georgetown Brewery, including our chat with Danny Kelly from The Ringer. First, a word from Georgetown Brewery.
Drink Georgetown Tavern Beer, your new locally brewed domestic-style lager. 4.2% alcohol. Cheap, good, local.
Okay, we got all things NFL with Danny Kelly. Something tells me that your starting lineup for Thanksgiving will be a little bit different than that. I think you have a few exotic items on the plate that there's going to be calls, some question marks, but we'll get to that at the end. We got Seahawks to talk about. We got Danny Dimes to get to. Sheduer Sanders going to be fit for a gold jacket already.
Oh, yeah.
Is Pete Carroll done in Las Vegas?
Oof.
And I just came across an amazing stat about Jackson Smith in Jigba. And then part of this stat made me, and there's a thumbs up on the video. I don't know why it does that.
Mine
will make people laugh. And now why has it gone dark? What is going on with the video today? There's balloons falling. There's thumbs up going on. How do I turn that off?
Not sure.
Danny Kelly. Follow him on social media, Danny B. Kelly, the Ringer NFL senior staff writer, Ringer NFL fantasy show, draft show. We talk all things NFL. Again, our NFL coverage brought to you by Georgetown Brewery. Perfect. Go pick up a growler before Thanksgiving, growler of Manny's, Bodhisattva, Rogers
on the preview. Man, it looks tasty.
Yeah, doesn't it?
I could go for one right now.
Yeah, you could. And it's 10:44. You can
you know what? Vacation. Well, not really vacation, but like the Thanksgiving break has already kind of started. It feels like.
I think it started for me on Sunday. This is such a throwaway week.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. No one's doing anything, Danny.
Yeah.
Let's first start before we get to Danny's dimes. And probably in there you have the Seahawks, but let's just discuss it, right? We always start with the Seahawks. Nothing easy about that one. That wasn't the get-right game that everyone was hoping for.
Well, yeah, you're right. It wasn't like a blowout necessarily. I think it does kind of make you appreciate a little bit that blowouts don't actually happen that often in the NFL. It's like when you blow a team out, like the Seahawks have blown a few teams out this year, like 28-0 in the first half. That is very rare for a team to do that. The NFL is like incredible parity across the league. Everybody's professional. Everyone's trying, make money and do their jobs. So, I thought that Seahawks handled the Titans pretty well. I never at one point felt pretty nervous in that game. Maybe when they were doing that onside kick at the very end there, I was like, okay, let's just not like make this too interesting. But I think the Seahawks did the job. They got the job done, and I was ultimately pretty fine with it. I thought, relatively mistake-free day for Sam Darnold, which is what I was looking for.
Okay. Well, it was, but he was lucky. Because there was about 3 passes that should have been picked off.
Well, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
But at least they weren't, right?
They were. You're right. They were not picked off. But I think there's in an alternate universe, Danny Kelly, there's another show that we're doing where that pass to Kenneth Walker gets picked off. That ball that bounced in the air intended for Barner gets picked off at the goal line. And then he had another one deep that went through the hands of the defender. You're talking about 3
Fair
picks.
enough.
It wasn't the game in which you're like, okay, I feel good about Sam Darnold. But we talked about this last week. There's nothing he's going to do in the next few weeks until they play the Rams again, where I think anyone's going to be comfortable with Sam Darnold. I mean, it was a no-win situation this last week.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I think the run game got going a little bit, which I like to see. Kenneth Walker had a couple of explosive runs. Charbonnet got that touchdown. It was nice to see the running game have a little bit of teeth, because I think that's going to be really important down the stretch. Walker averaged 6.5 yards per carry. Charbonnet almost 6 yards per carry. So I really like that. Like you said, Darnold got lucky on a couple of them, but like for the most part was pretty efficient. Jackson Smith-Njigba did his thing. Jackson Smith-Njigba was incredible. I mean, every week I'm just more impressed with him. Like that touchdown, the first touchdown catch he had was, I thought, just a perfect example of everything that he does so well. Ball tracking, basically showing late hands, the way that he subtly pushed off to create separation, not quite enough to be like an OPI type of thing, but he definitely did, create separation right there at the end. He caught the ball and then he like backpedaled into the end zone. He's just incredible body control, incredible athlete, incredible balance. So yeah, that was just really cool to see him, do that. And I think one of my dimes was actually going to be just if I'm taking anything away from this game, and this is nitpicking, and I'm aware of that.
Well, that's what we do.
I really would like to see a number 2 receiver kind of emerge for the Seahawks. Obviously, Torrey Horton has kind of been injured. He's on the injured reserve now. But like the Shaheed thing hasn't really panned out quite yet. I still believe that Shaheed's a very good player, but he just hasn't really integrated himself into the offense yet. 2 targets, no catches in this last game. They keep giving him like carries in the backfield. I'm like, I just want to see him play some receiver.
I want to see him run a deep post. Yeah. Have we not done that yet? That's all I want to see.
You think, because that's exactly what he did for Kubiak with the Saints. Like he was just creating these explosive plays. So I would love to see him get involved with that. I think that's coming, but so far we haven't really seen it. So I think that would be like the one nitpick I have is, the top receiver for the Seahawks was JSN with 167 yards. And then the next closest guy was Kenneth Walker with 30. Yeah. So that's, again, I'm nitpicking, but I'd like to see them have a little bit more, variety in terms of who they're playing, who they're passing to in the passing game. JSN, maybe he can just keep this up all year, but it'd be nice to see them have a little bit of other options kind of emerge as we go down the stretch here.
Okay, before we get to your next Danny's dimes, let me stick with JSN. So I saw this stat on Twitter this morning. Hell, I don't even know if this is true. I didn't even double check it. I'm just going to assume it.
That's okay. This is the world we live in.
He has more receiving yards, 1,313, than 5 total wide receiver rooms in the league.
Yeah, I saw that stat. That's
okay. You saw this. True. Now, I'm going to save the best team at the end, because the team at the end is going to make everyone laugh their asses off.
Okay.
So the teams are.
Can I guess?
Yes, you can.
The
so
Jets?
One of the teams. Hold on. You want to guess all of them?
You said there was 5.
There's 5, but I want to save the one that's going to make you laugh at the end. I'm going to let you guess who you think that one is. So here are the teams. Here are 4 of the 5: Titans, Raiders, Jets, Browns, and
it's not the Rams, even though they play a lot of tight end stuff. The Chiefs? Is it the Chiefs?
No, not the Chiefs. You have 2 more guesses.
I was gonna throw out. Commanders?
Whoop. Panthers? No.
Commanders. Is it the Panthers?
Oh, Commanders. No, not the Panthers. Are we counting that as an official guess?
No, but you said Panthers, so I just repeated.
Because I thought you said Panthers. Commanders? No, not the Commanders. One more guess.
One more guess? Oh, my God.
Kelly. from The Ringer.
So difficult.
Apparently, he has an NFL draft show. He talks all things NFL, and he can't come up with the final team.
It? Ravens?
No.
Who is it?
But you were close. Same division.
Steelers.
The Pittsburgh Steelers and DK Metcalf.
I should have known because the Steelers are like the team that throws to their running backs and tight ends more than any other team. So
how funny is that? The team that the Seahawks traded DK Metcalf to, their entire wide receiver room does not have as many receiving yards.
Yeah.
As Jackson Smith and Jigba.
There's so many good JSN. There's so many good JSN stats this year.
That's a great one, though.
He is, as you know, on pace for 2,000 yards. He is on pace to break the NFL record in receiving yards. He is currently in the Super Bowl era, so like basically forever. He is the receiver that has the highest percentage of yards per the team's pass attempts, or sorry, for the team's total yardage. So like his percentage of receiving yards relative to the total team receiving yards, he's the highest ever.
Yeah.
He is yards per route run. This stat has only been tracked since like 2011, 2012, but he's highest ever by a lot, by like a ton. So it's like, yeah, everything he's doing is absolutely historic and wild. And, this is a great example. This last game is a great example. It's like he had 167 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then nobody else did anything. So yeah, I think that's awesome and great, but like, it would be nice to see a little bit of, have them have more than one guy that can beat you.
Are these defensive coordinators idiots that the Seahawks play?
No,
I coach junior football. You know what? And I'm an idiot. You know what I would do if I faced
team JSN? Yeah.
I would take my 2 best players of the secondary, but just guard him. We'll lose to Mikey over there. We're going to let Mikey beat us, not him. Why don't these coordinators do any of that? They just like, we're just going to continue to play our defense.
I don't know. You know what the crazy thing about all the JSN stuff is? The Seahawks are second to last in pass attempts per game. So he's like on pace to set all these records on the team that throws it the second least in the NFL. Only the Ravens throw it less than him, than Sam Darnold. So I think part of it, my point to that is kind of like they still do run a ton. They're like one of the higher run teams in the NFL in terms of like the volume. They're not necessarily the best run team, but teams do have to kind of commit to stop that. And then the play action game obviously works a ton for JSN. And, I think when you look at the individual talent of JSN, the individual talent of Sam Darnold, and putting those passes exactly where he needs to put them, he's been really accurate on downfield throws. Like he's legitimately the best downfield thrower in the NFL this year. And that's not something you can take for granted. I think Seahawks fans probably have taken it a little bit for granted because we've had Russell Wilson and then Sam Darnold, and also Geno Smith was very good at this too. Go look at like what Patrick Mahomes, the greatest quarterback of all time, other than Tom Brady, like he can't fucking connect on a deep pass to save his life. And so, that's something we have to appreciate as Seahawks fans, is like just the pure accuracy and precision that we're having in this downfield passing game. I think it's hard to stop that. And that's why JSN's having so much success.
This is what led me on Monday's show, which Jim Moore got a kick out of and didn't really support my hope and my wish for the Seahawks. I want them to immediately put JSN and Gray Zabel in the Ring of Honor.
Right now.
Now. And I want it to be done before the game against the Vikings. Right now, just put them both in there.
So you're like, stop the count.
Yeah, I don't need to see any more from either. They're in the Ring of Honor.
All right. I'm fine with that.
I mean, this guy, this is Gray Zabel guy. He might be lost for the season. He's going to miss weeks of action.
He's back.
He says, no, I'm not going to miss fucking a play.
Yeah.
Because I want to go up against Jeffrey Simmons. I want to see how my game compares to his.
North Dakota State.
He goes, I want the smoke, even though someone from North Dakota State would never say, I want the smoke.
You never know. Gen Z, I don't know what they
telling you, that guy just
he loves
fitted
football,
for the gold jacket and JSN right now. Both.
I mean, I think JSN is pretty much a lock. I'm with you on Zabel.
Just Ring of Honor now? Yes.
Awesome.
Do it.
Why not? You're not quite there with Sam Darnold yet, though?
I'm not there with Darnold yet. She's not quite Ring of Honor for me
Who's all in the Seahawks Ring of Honor right now? Actually,
great question. I would say I think it's only the guys that are Hall of Fame.
Kenny Easley,
Cortez, Largent, Walter Jones.
And who's going to be there next?
Well,
Richard Sherman? Do you think Richard Sherman will go?
He's got to be in the ring. He's got to be in the Hall of Fame.
You have to be in the Hall of Fame to get into the Ring of Honor?
I think so.
I think
that's their thing.
Oh man.
I think. Hold on. Maybe
like
I'm hold on. No, that's the Ring of Honor. I'm sorry. No.
Sean Alexander's in there.
Yeah. I'm sorry. No. I'm thinking of what am I thinking of? Am I thinking of the Mariners?
Maybe.
Numbers retired or something. No, you're right. No, Ring of Honor.
List in front of me. Do you want to hear some of them?
Yeah, give it to me.
I'll go in reverse chronological here.
Okay.
Sean Alexander, that would make sense. He was the MVP of the league.
Okay.
Incredible player. Mike Holmgren, Matt Hasselbeck. Would you have guessed that one? Yeah. And then as we go down, Walter Jones, Cortez Kennedy, Chuck Knox, legendary coach, Dave Craig, Kenny Easley, RIP, Jacob Green, Kurt Warner, not that one, the running back, Pete Gross.
You don't got to tell me that. God,
I know. Dave Brown, Jim Zorn, and the great Steve Largent.
Okay. So I was thinking, I think retired numbers. I think they only retire the numbers for Hall of Fame because the only numbers they have retired are Easley, Jones, Largent, and Tez, and then the 12th man.
Yeah,
number 12.
80, 45, 96, and 71.
That's what I was thinking.
Those are the retired.
Yeah,
numbers.
so I mean, that's it. Did you say Jim Zorn's in there?
Jim Zorn is in the Ring of Honor.
Yeah, then I'd put Zabel in now. Zorn's in
there. But yeah, I'm just trying to think of. Sorry, we're on a total tangent now, but I'm like, who else from this like legendary Seahawk teams? Because there's so many guys. Like Bobby Wagner's probably going to get in there.
Well, yeah.
Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Earl
Chancellor.
Thomas.
Earl, yes.
Okay, so Earl N. Chancellor.
Yes.
Marshawn.
Sherman, yes. Marshawn.
Doug Baldwin.
Yes.
Damn, they're gonna have to clear out some room in the Ring of Honor because all the guys going.
It's gonna come down to like KJ Wright.
I doubt it. I mean, I love KJ.
Cliff Averill.
Right. Michael Bennett.
Yeah, see, those are the guys that are gonna get mad. They're gonna be like, "Hey, man."
I feel like they should just put the team in there.
Oh,
just put the 2013 team in
that's
there.
actually a good idea.
As one spot, because then you can fit in Percy for all he did for us.
The question.
I mean, look, you got to.
I love Percy Harvin,
so that's all I care about.
The Golden Tate, yeah. I think the next number that's going to be retired is who's the next player that's going to go in the Hall of Fame?
Wagner.
Yeah,
good question. Probably Wagner. Yeah.
We don't think Lynch is going to get it.
I feel like, well, no, I think Lynch could get there. Lynch could get there. I don't know. He's probably a borderline one because, statistically, he might not be there in terms of just overall volume, but in terms of impact on the field, he was one of the best, if not the best, running back of his era. I mean, he was not the best in his era. That would probably be Adrian Peterson, but up there among all the best in that era. And Super Bowl cultural like icon for, I don't know. I feel like he should get in there, but I don't know if all those things matter.
I think the longevity might be the longevity might be in question. Also, I would think, I don't know. It's a media driven thing. So how he treated the media, is the media going to get mad that he wasn't
just here so I don't get fined?
Interviews and all that kind of stuff? I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
We got, what else do you have? Do you have anything else with Danny's Dimes?
Yeah, I want to talk. Well, I just want to get your opinion on how you feel about old Schottenheimer in Dallas this year. I feel like he's been doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think under the circumstances, I think when the owner and general manager neutered his team before the season started and traded away his best player.
Totally.
I think he's done a pretty good job. I like how he channeled Pete Carroll last week.
I was going to ask you about that.
Can you win the game in the first quarter? He went all Pete Carroll. Yeah. I mean, I think that, that was the one guy that they should have kept.
Yeah.
I think that was
like that firing.
No, because they were moving, they were effective offensively. And I think that they got so wrapped up in the whole let rest cook and all that BS, but what he was doing was working.
Yeah.
I mean, he got a little reckless. I always go back to the Buffalo game. Had that Buffalo game never happened, I think he's still the offensive coordinator. But Pete Carroll got so like, we can't turn the ball over. We can't throw it. we have to go back to 1950s football, and we can only play that way.
Yeah. It was like a overreaction, and it wasn't Schottenheimer's fault. Russell Wilson was throwing picks either. Like, ultimately it wasn't all his fault.
Yeah.
But I think he was like the sacrificial lamb for an identity change that Pete felt they needed to make.
Because it's never Pete's fault, though. You always have to remember that about Pete Carroll. It's never his fault.
Yeah. Well, man, we could talk about Pete right now.
Well, that's right. I mean, it's not his fault
right now.
Yeah, it's not his fault that the team stinks this year. It was Chip Kelly's fault.
Mm-hmm. Is their defense any good? I don't think so.
Terrible.
I feel bad though, because Pete, I mean, they are legitimately one of the least talented teams in the NFL. They probably should not have picked a running back in the first round. That doesn't really get you over the hump when you're a bad team. So I do feel like blame can be passed around legitimately to a lot of different parties in Las Vegas right now. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't look good. I don't love that it feels like everybody's vibes are super, super low. Because it felt like, one of the things that he could do is bring some energy, bring some, positive vibes, sort of resurrect the team from just being downtrodden, really depressed, really just sort of, with all the different coaching changes that they've made over the last couple of years, it just felt like they were really, the Raiders were really just a depressed franchise, and it doesn't feel any better. In fact, it feels worse now. So that was kind of like to me, the biggest surprise with Pete Carroll coming in and just not being able to, like, I don't know, win the team over or whatever, get the vibes going.
Well, and I think what made it work in Seattle when he did it is that he just ran everything. So when you run everything, you can get the whole Carroll culture change.
Yeah.
Because he runs it all, and he ran it all. He was given a complete authority, not given complete authority in Las Vegas. That authority goes to Tom Brady. Tom Brady's got the authority there, even though he's like, 1%, 2% owner in the team. He's just like Mark Davis is just like, you do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you see a lot of that. Like, he doesn't have say over the personnel because they have a GM there. And really it's how that team wants to be modeled and looked at is going to be in the vision of how Tom Brady sees it.
Mm-hmm.
I said this, I think maybe it was to you last week, or it was to Mike Garafolo. Tom Brady ended the Seahawks dynasty, and he's going to end Pete Carroll's coaching career.
I know, God.
He's going to fire him after this year. I don't think there's any way that he comes back. I just don't see it.
Even if they finish strong here down the stretch and kind of get some positive momentum, you think he's out?
Well, I mean, he's got a quarterback.
Can they afford to fire him?
Well, yeah, maybe that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know how he affords anything there.
I know.
Like, I mean, what pyramid scheme is Mark Davis on? He's on some pyramid scheme because he's stealing from someplace to pay people off. I don't know how he's doing it, but it's a disaster there. I mean, Geno Smith's running off the field, flipping people off left and right.
I feel like Geno's the next like domino to fall here. I feel like Pete's probably safe for another year, even though it's been pretty atrocious vibes. I think Geno clearly isn't what they expected him to be, nor what they really need right now, which is sort of like someone who's a little more even keeled, I think, and like will kind of not just keep the boat afloat, because right now, like, Geno is like, he's just falling apart, and like emotionally, I don't know if he's got the right temperament to be on this type of team, to lead this type of team.
Yeah. Hey, we have some breaking news. We never have breaking news. Brady Henderson first to report this. Well, because the injury situation with the Seahawks, Ty Okada likely is going to be placed on the IR. Julian Love is eligible to come off the IR, but Mike McDonald yesterday was kind of non-committal about that. They bring back a familiar name.
Yeah.
Quandre Diggs.
I like it.
Expected to be signed, not to the active roster, but to the practice squad. Quandre Diggs.
Yeah, that you can't really read anything into that. That's just like now standard operating procedure for teams. If you have a veteran, you sign him to the practice squad, and then you kind of get him in the building and blah blah blah, and then eventually he'll be elevated to the.
So it begs the question: are we one more injury away from John Schneider reaching out to Pete Carroll about Jamal Adams?
Oh God. Well, I think no, because the trade deadline is past us. Yeah,
I know. Of course not.
Did you see Jamal Adams get a penalty in this last game for?
I did not. What was he doing?
He was. I mean,
Jamal
he just
stuff?
it was like he stopped a guy. They blew the whistle for about 10 seconds, like forward progress, and then he like chucked him on the ground and got because he's a real tough guy, and then got
Jamal
a penalty for it. But
it's the best.
Yeah, I don't miss that at all.
No, I do not. Are you in the where is Danny Kelly from The Ringer? I know you discussed this with your partners probably on all of your different podcasts, your wrap-up show on Sunday, which you can find at all NFL content at The Ringer, wherever you find your podcasts. Did you guys talk about Kevin Stefanski not acknowledging Sheduer Sanders in the post-game game ball celebration? That has left everybody in the media world. Why did you not mention he won you the game?
Did he?
No, he didn't. But
sorry. What did the defense do in that game? I can't remember.
They had like 13
they have
and
10
like
sacks?
1 million sacks.
I like it. It's funny. It is funny. I mean, the whole Sheduer, whatever dialogue or whatever, it just breaks people's brains. I understand that there's a lot of like layers to it, but you have to understand the Browns defense had 10 sacks. 10 sacks. I mean, that's bordering on the all-time record. 14 is the all-time record. They scored 2 of their touchdowns from the Wildcat formation on offense, where I don't know if Sheduer was even on the field. He certainly wasn't receiving the snap. So I think it's like people definitely feel that the Browns have wronged Sheduer. They feel the NFL has wronged Sheduer.
Certain people in the media feel
sure. And I mean, I understand kind of like, I think the narrative or whatever is like teams passed on him because Dion is a pain in the ass and they didn't want to deal with that media circus. And here we are, we have a media circus. So, it's one of those things where it's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't, because now the Browns who did take him, the Browns were the team that took him in the 5th round. And then they're on all this hot water for making him the 3rd string quarterback. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. The whole thing is ridiculous to me.
Yeah,
but
I mean, did you happen to see his interview on the field?
Stefanski?
No, Sheduer.
No, I didn't watch that one. I heard people talking about it, but yeah.
I mean, imagine what I could do with the whole off season if I were the guy instead of just 1 week. And then he's yelling at his entourage to get out of the camera picture.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, I mean, what did he say? I'm the guy they've been waiting for all along.
Oh,
Danny,
did he say? Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Danny, and for our audience, his QBR rating was 8.7.
And out of 100?
It's out of 100.
Right.
He was an 8.7.
Yeah.
And virtually that means he did nothing to help the team win. In fact, in a weird way, hurt the team. I mean, it is the
he had that one. He had one good throw. I will give him
one
that.
throw.
He had that one very impressive throw, which
I mean, good God.
I don't know. I was very curious after the game was over. I was like, oh man, now this is an interesting quagmire for the Browns. Do they try and go back to Dylan Gabriel, who has been objectively bad, or are they just going to basically capitulate to this media frenzy and stick with Sheduer? I mean, ultimately, like they won the game. Sheduer made a couple of nice throws. It makes sense to stick with him, but like sure. I was like, man, this is going to be interesting to see how they make this decision, because for the whole season they've been like very adamant. He's not their starter. It's Dylan Gabriel's getting his shot.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. I thought it was kind of funny that they just decided to stick with Sheduer, I think, to avoid sort of like this circus.
Probably. Like, I just don't want to deal with it. It's not like Dylan Gabriel's anything to write home about.
I mean, that's the other thing, is like, it's not like
we'll
Gabriel.
Just go with Sanders.
Yeah, Gabriel's not going to be their long-term starter. I think just like the overall narrative with the Browns this whole season is like their starter is probably not on the roster this year.
I mean, you talk about organizations that can't find quarterbacks.
Yeah.
They are the poster child of that. They haven't
like
had
40-something starters since they became a team. It's something ridiculous.
Danny, they haven't had a quarterback since I was 10.
Yeah.
And even that guy threw the ball weird.
They've had like 20 starters
and he wore a weird number. And that was Bernie Kosar.
Oh, yeah.
He wore 19 and he had that weird delivery and he was okay. That's it. That's their only guy. Wow. Okay. Happy Thanksgiving to you. What's on the plate?
What's on the plate?
Yeah. What are you doing?
So my friends make fun of me all the time, and my
I knew
family,
you were going to have something weird.
that we are not a traditional Thanksgiving food family. We just aren't.
Okay.
Every year since high school, my friend has texted me on Thanksgiving asking me if we're having lasagna, because we had lasagna one time for
Okay.
Thanksgiving in high school.
So this is your whole family. This is your parents, everything.
Yeah. Because everybody in my family, well, first of all, like my sister is a vegetarian. And the rest of my family, my dad doesn't like turkey.
Okay.
And so it's like, why are we making this giant turkey so 3 people can eat a giant turkey?
What about you? What about Danny? Does Danny
I like turkey
and mashed potatoes and all of it?
I like turkey. I like mashed potatoes. I like I mean, I think that's probably, I like, like all the accoutrement, like the sides that come with Thanksgiving food, but like ultimately I'm totally like, we're doing pizza this year. We're making our own, pizzas.
That's so funny. On Friday, we had this whole conversation with Egan about this because his sister put out the menu for what they were going to have at dinner, and pizza was on the menu.
Yeah.
And we think it's for the little kids that are going to be there, but you're actually making your own pizza.
It's like we do these naan pizzas where you get the individual naan bread things.
Yeah.
And then all these sides and condiments that you could think of. And then you can build your own things. You put it in the oven, you cook it for like 10, 15 minutes. It's really good.
Okay.
Now we don't have
like there's going to be some forged mushrooms on there.
Sure. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Mushrooms, olives, not for me,
Hippie.
but like, I'm kind of like a traditionalist. I like, just a little bit of marinara.
Do we do pie?
No, I don't think so.
No dessert, no pie, no
cookies,
nothing.
Cookies for dessert.
Cookies.
Yeah.
Huh.
We like what we like. You know what I mean?
It's okay. But I pegged you for somebody that was going to be doing it different.
Yeah.
I just knew it.
I'm like
I knew it.
Becoming more and more, I don't know what the word is, infamous for my horrific food takes. So, it is what it is. I've embraced it. What do you have? Do you have turkey?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Are you the turkey? Are you in charge of the turkey?
I am not. We go to a family friend's house, so no, they handle it all, which is great. I'm making a pie, making my a pecan pie, which is only for me.
That's good.
I don't let anybody else touch it. I bring it, I show it, like here it is. Don't touch it.
You don't let anyone else eat it.
That's no. All
right,
it's mine.
What else? Yeah, what else? What's your favorite thing on Thanksgiving?
I'm a traditionalist. I mean, my favorite thing is
stuffing.
I love stuffing. I love it. I love the turkey. I like the gravy.
A good gravy is really good. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Like good mashed potatoes and gravy. I'll take
some
that.
green beans, but I need the green beans, but I need the fried onions on top of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like a
very
traditional
traditional
type deal. Yeah.
And then just I don't even drink the wine. I bring an IV.
Mm-hmm.
And I put in
the red
wine in the RV,
like the bag holder.
In the IV,
and
I just
drag it around with you.
Yeah, just right in.
Yeah, I do. The other Thanksgiving. I don't know if this is a Thanksgiving tradition or just something that we always do, but it's sparkling cider. Do you guys do sparkling cider like Martinelli?
Maybe for the kids.
Yeah,
for me.
Maybe I'm just like carrying that on from when I was a kid. But we do the Martinelli sparkling cider. It's really good.
Then I go in the other room and watch football and try to ignore all the other hens talking in the other room.
Yep.
That's what I do. It's a good day.
Sounds lovely.
All right, Dan, happy Thanksgiving to you. And have a wonderful day with the pizzas, and we'll reconvene next week to talk some football.
All right, sounds great.
There he is, Danny Kelly from The Ringer, a senior staff writer at The Ringer, Ringer Fantasy Football Show, Ringer NFL Draft Show, fantasyfootball.theringer. And again, our coverage talking all things NFL brought to you by the one and only Georgetown Brewery. By the way, speaking of Thanksgiving, get to Georgetown for their growlers because they got to get in there before Thanksgiving, get a growler, take it to your Thanksgiving party. And before you get to the wine, throw down some mayonnaise, maybe some Rogers, maybe a tavern beer or a Bodie's off of there at Georgetown Brewery, georgetownbeer.com. Before we get to On This Day and wrap up the show with Hey, What the Puck, how about a little Old Crimson sneak peek? Full episode will be available coming out later this afternoon. This week's show, we talked a lot about Danny Freund, who is the offensive coordinator at Washington State, and Zevi Eckhouse, where the offense is right now. They've had a lot of second-half woes. Their offense hasn't been good in the second half. Will Danny Freund be one and done at Washington State?
I feel about it, Paul. I've mentioned it too. Like, everybody thinks offensive coordinators are dumb as hell. It doesn't matter. It's Danny Freund. It's, you name your offensive coordinator, whatever team you're pulling for, you always think he should have done this, and then he ended up doing that. And then when it doesn't work, it's like, oh God, what a dumb play call that was. And I understand there's some dumb play calls. The one, when we had the running play against Ole Miss when we were backed up inside of a minute, that was a bad play call. But overall, what is Danny Freund? Does he suck at his job? Does he really suck at his job? And I mean, he's calling plays that he thinks are going to work. And he has all this stuff, all the resources that factor into what he's calling. And so I just God, leave him alone, man. That's the way I feel about it. And I know that other people can make arguments like we shouldn't have run the ball up the middle so many times and try to be more creative and all that stuff. So I get that too. But right now I'm kind of going this has been a good season overall. And I've been pretty happy with it, actually.
Old Crimson will come out later today. That's the voice of the go-to guy, Jim Moore. He joins me along with Paul Sorensen, who used to play at Washington State, former All-American safety at Washington State. That will be available on all major podcast platforms and available there on YouTube. A lot of discussion, a lot about Danny Freund potentially being a one and done at Washington State, Zevi Eckhouse, and is next year's starting quarterback currently on the roster. There is a kid that everyone over there likes. He's a freshman, and he's from Norman, Oklahoma. And we talk a lot about him on Old Crimson, again, coming out later today. Before we wrap up the show with Hey, What the Puck, on this day, November 25th, we cover all of the events that happened on this day, birthdays, those who no longer with us. On this day, November 25th, we start with college basketball. On this day, 5 years ago, you can make an argument, one of the best sensations that maybe college basketball has ever seen, certainly on the women's side, but maybe of all of college basketball. November 25th, 2020, Caitlin Clark made her debut for the University of Iowa. In the victory, she scored 27 points. She grabbed 8 rebounds. She dished out 4 assists and then just set the wheels in motion. Just like Beatles mania for women's college basketball there with Caitlin Clark. November 25th, 1979. I think you can make an argument. This is the greatest broadcast duo in the history of sports broadcasting, certainly in the NFL. Pat Summerall and John Madden made their broadcast debut together for the very first time, November 25th, 1979. The partnership lasted 22 years, widely again considered the best broadcasting duo. You miss them on Thanksgiving. You miss the Turduncan, John Madden and everything, writing the Telestrator. And then Pat Summerall, who I believe still is the greatest NFL broadcaster ever because it was simple and succinct. Montana drops back. Rice, end zone. Touchdown 49ers. That's it. That's all you need to know. That was it. Aikman to Irvin, sideline, touchdown Cowboys. Beautiful. They were the best. Of course, led to Madden, the video game with those two. But you miss them on Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving hasn't been the same without Pat Summerall and John Madden. How about some presidential history on this day? Not the good kind. And it's a weird thing because it ties into birthdays and deaths too. 1963, our 35th president, John F. Kennedy, of course, was assassinated in Dallas, Texas, laid to rest at the Arlington National Cemetery on this day in 1963. His son will play a part later in on this day. 1948, you probably watch these guys and gals every single night, but 1948, King 5 Television made its debut in the Seattle market in 1948, November 25th. Of course, notable alumni from King 5 Television, Gene Anderson, Dennis Bounds, Jeff Renner in his mock turtleneck. Lou Dobbs was once on King 5. Remember Lou Dobbs on CNN? Lori Matsukawa was on King 5. Tony Ventrella, King 5 Television Sports, used to cut people's hair, but not really cut people's hair, and then would do the interview. Tony Ventrella on King 5 Television, and someone named Chris Egan. November 25th, 1948, King 5 making its debut. All right, let's get to birthdays here on November 25th on this day. 1844. Happy birthday to Carl Benz. You're like, well, who the hell's Carl Benz? Well, you have a Mercedes-Benz? You driving that around? Because Carl Benz, German inventor, designed the Mercedes-Benz. Carl Benz, born on this day in 1844. We head over to baseball. Joe DiMaggio was born in 1914, three-time American League MVP, nine-time World Series champion. He was married to Marilyn Monroe and passed away in 1999. Also, happy birthday, 85th birthday, still with us, Washington Redskins head coach, Joe Gibbs. Forget about what a great coach that Joe Gibbs was. Retired early, remember, then went into NASCAR. Won Super Bowls with Washington in 1982, John Riggins. 1987 with Doug Williams. 1991 with Mark Rippon. He was one of the best head coaches in NFL history. Also, happy birthday goes out to former Seattle Sonics assistant head coach. Went on to several coaching gigs in the NBA, including the Portland Trail Blazers, Milwaukee Brewers, Dallas Mavericks. Can't remember if he coached the Mavericks or not. Terry Stotts. Happy birthday to Terry Stotts today. This ties in again to John F. Kennedy, 1963, laid to rest in Arlington Memorial Cemetery, right? On this day in 1960, John F. Kennedy Jr., his son, was born. Would have been 65 today. Passed away in 1999. He took his plane out with his wife and his sister-in-law, and they crashed in the water on their way to their vacation property. But that's just weird. His father laid to rest on this day in 1963. He was born on this day in 1960. Former Browns quarterback Bernie Kosar. We brought up Bernie Kosar earlier today. He turned 62 today. He was recently hospitalized. He's released from the hospital. He underwent a liver transplant. Donovan McNabb is 49 today. Hot dog eating champion Joey Chestnut is 42 today. No longer with us here on this day. This is kind of a hodgepodge of guys. Soccer legend Diego Maradona. He passed away today in 2020 from a heart attack. Cuban leader Fidel Castro passed away on this day in 1990. He was 90. And the first ever commissioner in Major League Baseball, Kennesaw Mountain Landis, passed away in 1944 at the age of 78 on this day, November 25th. All right, we wrap up the show with Hey, What the Puck, brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle, your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services, locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them, restoration1.com, North Seattle franchise. Last couple of years, John Schneider, Seahawks general manager and president of football operations, made two significant changes. One, fired his good friend Pete Carroll. This last offseason, probably made the difficult decision to move on from quarterback Geno Smith, who in the previous few years had vast amount of success, and decided to take a gamble on Sam Darnold. Both those moves have paid over in spades. Pete Carroll appears to probably be one and done with the Raiders. It's an unfortunate end to his coaching career, a coaching career that should end up maybe in the Hall of Fame. And for Geno Smith, turned his career around, had great seasons in Seattle. He's flaming out miserably right now in Las Vegas, and he continues to flip off fans everywhere. John Schneider's taken a lot of heat from people in this town the last few years. Missed drafts, hasn't been perfect, missed trades. All he's done, though, since the second he stepped foot in this town is build a consistent winner. And he appears to be back on it one more time by reinventing his football team by the hiring of Mike McDonald, the decision to move on from Geno Smith and bring in Sam Darnold, and the last few draft classes has put together some pretty good talent. Jackson Smith-Njigba is on his way to becoming, if not, well, he is the best wide receiver in the NFL. We talked about Gray Zabel, the legendary status that is Gray Zabel, but he has retuned, reconfigured this football team to where they have a legitimate chance to get back and play in the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl one more time. Hats off to John Schneider. Last few years, calculated risks that put his job on the line, but so far, those risks and those moves by John Schneider are paying off. Hey, What the Puck brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. It's a restoration company, again, that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, mold damage. They're going to take care of you. Reach out to them, restoration1.com, North Seattle franchise. Big thanks to everybody watching and listening to today's show. Thank you to our sponsors, Limbeck Lumber, Flat Stick Pub, Georgetown Brewery, Restoration One. Say it every day. Without your support, we cannot do this every single day and bring you the Daily Punch Up. And also without your support. If you didn't watch, you didn't listen, they wouldn't advertise, they wouldn't be with us. So thank you to everyone. Today's Daily Punch Up, you can find it up on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. You may watch it, but hit the subscribe button. Nothing funny is going to happen. You're not going to get bombarded with emails or anything. It just helps the cause. So hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed. Hit that like button. Leave a comment. You can find also the Daily Punch Up on your favorite podcast platforms, Apple and Spotify. When you're there, if you have time, please leave a review. That helps. Rate the show. Give it 5 stars. The only time you ever want to go 5 stars is with this show. Never when you go to a Thai restaurant. Never go 5 stars. But it's available there. And you can find everything at pucksports.com, including where you can sign up to be a Pucks Posse member. Your support helps the Daily Punch Up every single day. Maintain it. Our guests. Also, we give you bonus shows every single week. Tomorrow will be another edition of Inside Pitch with Ryan Divish coming out. Later today, we are recording, and a new edition of The Sports Pit is coming out with myself, Steve Sandmeyer, Matt Stretch Johnson. And also, you get KJ Arntz with Mitch Levy. Don't worry. Normally on Thursdays, it will come out tomorrow as well. Be sure to also check out Graz with Gas Take 5 podcast, available wherever you get your podcast, now produced by Puck Sports. We'll talk to you tomorrow. A reminder, the show tomorrow, the last one for the week. However, you will have normal guests coming on. You will get a Bob Condota podcast. You're going to get a Todd Millis podcast as well, as he previews the semifinals and all the state playoffs. And Bob Condota will give you the last word on the Seahawks. That will come out later in the week, but no show Thursday or Friday. Tomorrow's show will include Rob Staten, Jim Moore, the go-to guy, Ryan Divish, Inside Pitch for Pucks Posse members, and a special appearance with Mitch Levy and KJ Arntz. We'll talk to you tomorrow. As always, we promise to be better.
No shoes, no ties.
Anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you, but you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my dress for? We like to send out mail.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!